Stop. Before you say, "I'm sorry," one more time, I need you to hear something that will change how you see power, respect, and human nature. Do you apologize when you're not wrong? Do you say sorry just to keep the peace? Do you think apologizing makes you the bigger person? That it shows maturity and strength? If you answered yes to any of these, you're about to discover the most devastating mistake you've been making your entire life. The world has sold you a lie. They told you that apologizing shows character, that it takes courage to say sorry, that it makes people respect you more. But the reality is, every apology you make is like dropping a piece of your power on the ground and letting someone step on it. Your apologies aren't building bridges, they're digging your own grave. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He watched leaders who apologized constantly lose everything. He saw kind people who said sorry get crushed by the very ones they apologized to. He saw the pattern that nobody else wanted to admit. Today, I'm going to show you the brutal cost of apologies, the hidden price you pay every single time those two words leave your mouth. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn why your constant apologies are making you invisible, why people don't respect your sorry, they exploit it, and most importantly, how to stop apologizing and start commanding the respect you actually deserve. I'm not telling you to become a heartless monster. I'm not saying you should never acknowledge mistakes. What I'm showing you is the difference between strategic acknowledgement and desperate apology, between owning your actions and surrendering your power. Because the truth is, in a world where everyone is fighting for respect, apologizing without strategy is like showing up to a battlefield without armor. You will get destroyed. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I own my power. From this moment forward, everything changes. You will no longer apologize blindly. You will understand the true cost of those two words. And you will learn when silence is stronger than sorry. Let's dive into the first brutal truth. Number 1. The death of your presence. Listen to me very carefully. Every single time you say, "I'm sorry," something dies inside you. Your presence, your energy, your very existence in the space you occupy. You think you're being polite. You think you're being considerate. But what you're actually doing is erasing yourself from the room. Watch what happens to your body when you apologize. Your spine curves. Your chest collapses inward. Your voice drops to almost nothing. Your eyes dart away from whoever you're talking to. You literally shrink. This isn't just physical. This is your spirit contracting. This is your power evaporating. This is you telling the universe, "I don't deserve to be here." And the universe listens. People listen. They see you disappearing right in front of them, and they treat you like someone who is disappearing, like someone who doesn't really matter, like someone who can be ignored, dismissed, erased. You become invisible. Not because you're quiet, not because you're small, but because you keep apologizing for existing. You keep saying sorry for breathing the same air as everyone else. You keep asking permission to occupy space that's already yours. The world is full of people trying to take up space. They're expanding. They're pushing outward. They're claiming territory. And every time you apologize, you're giving them your territory. You're handing over your space. You're saying, "Here, take this piece of me. I didn't deserve it anyway." You wonder why people walk over you. You just laid down and showed them where to step. You wonder why your opinions don't matter. You just apologized for having them before you even shared them. You wonder why nobody takes you seriously. You just demonstrated that you don't take yourself seriously. Your constant apologies are a signal flare that screams, "I am prey. I am weak. I am beneath you. Come dominate me." And people respond to that signal. Not because they're evil, but because that's how power works. Power flows toward those who claim it and away from those who surrender it. Every apology is surrender. Every "I'm sorry" is you waving a white flag. Every time you back down, you're training everyone around you that you're someone who backs down. You're not building relationships. You're building a reputation as someone who can be conquered, someone who will always yield, someone whose presence is optional. Machiavelli once said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." You're trying to be loved through your apologies. You're trying to be accepted. You're trying to make people comfortable with you. But what you're actually doing is making yourself forgettable, erasable, irrelevant. When you're feared, not terrorized but respected, you're remembered. You matter. Your presence registers. People think twice before dismissing you. They pause before interrupting you. They consider you before making decisions. That's what you're sacrificing with every unnecessary apology. Your very existence in other people's reality. Stop apologizing for being here. You have just as much right to this space, this air, this moment as anyone else. Maybe more, because at least you're not trying to steal someone else's power through their apologies. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I claim my space. Number 2, the hunger you create. Here's something that will shake you to your core. When you apologize to someone, you're not satisfying their need for closure. You're creating an insatiable hunger in them, a hunger for more of your submission. Think of it like this. You hand someone a taste of the most addictive substance in the world, power over another human being. That first apology, that's their first hit. And like any first hit, it opens a door that can never be fully closed. Their brain chemistry literally changes. When you submit, when you apologize, when you lower yourself, their brain releases dopamine. They feel elevated. They feel superior. They feel like they just won something. And winning feels incredible. Now, their brain wants to feel that way again. And again. And again. You've activated their reward system, and you're the one who controls the supply. Except you don't control it. It controls you. Because now they're going to manufacture reasons for you to apologize. They're going to become hypersensitive to everything you do. They're going to find offense in places where none exists. Why? Because they're chasing that feeling, that rush of dominance, that hit of superiority. You've turned them into addicts, and you're the drug. Watch what happens in your life. The people you apologize to most become the people who are offended by you most. It's not a coincidence. It's conditioning. You've trained their brain that being upset with you leads to the reward of your submission. They don't even realize they're doing it. Their conscious mind thinks they have legitimate complaints. But their unconscious mind is running a program. Get upset with this person. They apologize. I feel powerful. Let's do that again. You're caught in a feedback loop designed to drain every drop of power from your body and transfer it to theirs. Every apology makes them stronger and you weaker. Every "I'm sorry" is a transaction where you lose and they gain. And here's the part that will destroy you if you don't wake up right now. This hunger is never satisfied. Never. You cannot apologize enough times to finally fill them up. You cannot submit hard enough to finally make them content, because satisfaction would mean the end of the supply. And addicts never want the supply to end. So they'll keep pushing. They'll keep finding new things to be hurt by. They'll keep discovering new reasons why you need to apologize. They'll keep raising the bar of what's required from you. One apology becomes 2. 2 becomes 5. 5 becomes a lifestyle where you're constantly apologizing for your very existence. because they've become so dependent on that feeling of power over you that they can't function without it. You think you're maintaining peace. You think you're being the mature one. You think you're preserving the connection. But you're not. You're feeding a monster that grows bigger with every apology. And eventually, that monster will consume you entirely. The cruelest part, they'll blame you when it all falls apart. You're always apologizing. You clearly have so many problems. I can't deal with someone who is constantly messing up. You created the pattern through your submission, and now they're using that pattern as evidence that you're the broken one. Machiavelli once said, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived." You're deceiving yourself. You think your apologies are solving problems, but they're creating dependencies, they're building addictions, they're establishing power dynamics that will haunt you for as long as you allow them to exist. The only way to break this cycle is to stop feeding it. Stop giving them their fix. Stop providing the supply. Let them experience what it's like when you don't apologize. Let them go through the withdrawal. Yes, they'll escalate. Yes, they'll get angry. Yes, they'll try everything to get you back into the pattern, because addicts fight hard when you take away their drug. But you're not responsible for their addiction. You're only responsible for stopping your role as the supplier. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I starve weakness. Number 3. The permanent record. Your apologies don't disappear. They don't evaporate into the air after you speak them. They get carved into stone. They become permanent entries in a record that will be used against you for the rest of your life. Every time you say, "I'm sorry," you're creating a file in everyone's memory. And that file is titled Evidence of Failure. How human memory actually works. It doesn't record events accurately. It creates narratives. It builds stories. And your apologies are writing the worst possible story about who you are. You apologize once for being late. The memory created isn't "they apologized for being late." The memory is "they're unreliable." You apologize for a mistake at work. The memory isn't "they acknowledged an error." The memory is "they're incompetent." You apologize for saying something that upset someone. The memory isn't "they were considerate." The memory is "they're problematic." Each apology is a data point, and humans are pattern recognition machines. They take those data points and create a pattern. And the pattern your apologies create is, this person is consistently failing. It doesn't matter that you apologized once for being late and were on time 100 other times. That one apology outweighs the 100 successes because apologies are emotionally charged. They stick, they matter, they create lasting impressions. Meanwhile, there's someone else who was late 10 times and never apologized. What pattern does everyone see for them? They're busy, they're important, they have a lot going on. You apologized once, they never apologized. You're the unreliable one, they're the important one. That's the twisted logic of human perception shaped by apologies. But it gets so much worse. These memories don't stay separate. They combine, they merge. They create a compound narrative that's bigger than the sum of its parts. Your apology for being late combines with your apology for a work error, combines with your apology for the thing you said. Now you're not just someone who was late once or made one mistake. You're someone who is always apologizing, and someone who is always apologizing must be someone who is always doing something wrong. Your individual apologies for small, unrelated things create a massive, overarching identity. The person who messes up. That becomes your brand. That becomes how people introduce you in their minds. That becomes the filter through which every action you take is interpreted. Do something good? Well, they're trying to make up for all their mistakes. Do something neutral? Probably going to mess it up eventually. Do something questionable. See? There they go again. Your apologies have created a confirmation bias where everything you do confirms the narrative that you're problematic. And here's the most devastating part. This record is permanent. Years later, people will still remember you as that person who was always apologizing. They won't remember what you apologized for. They'll just remember the feeling of you constantly submitting. You'll try to change. You'll stop apologizing. You'll stand strong. But they'll resist because the record says you're not a strong person. The record says you're someone who backs down. The record says you're the apologizer. Breaking that perception is almost impossible because you spent so long building it. You spent so long feeding data into the file titled evidence of failure. Meanwhile, people who never apologize have a different file. Even when they fail, even when they're wrong, even when they should apologize, they don't. So what record gets created? Confident, strong, doesn't back down. They have the same failures you do, maybe more, but they never documented them through apologies. So their record stays clean while yours is covered in red marks. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Your apologies make you appear to be constantly faulty. That appearance becomes your reality in everyone's eyes. It doesn't matter what you really are. It matters what your apologies have documented you to be. From this moment forward, understand that every apology is permanent. Every "I'm sorry" is archived forever. Every submission is documented in a record that will follow you. Do you really want to add another entry to that record? Or are you finally ready to stop building the case against yourself? Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I rewrite my story. Number 4. The blame magnet effect. You need to understand something fundamental about human psychology. People are always looking for somewhere to place blame. When things go wrong, everyone's brain automatically starts scanning for a target. And your apologies have painted a giant bullseye on your back. Here's how it works. The moment you apologize for anything at all, you establish yourself as the kind of person who accepts responsibility, who takes blame, who admits fault. That sounds noble until you realize what you've actually done. You've volunteered to be everyone's scapegoat. You've raised your hand and said, "I'm the one you can blame when things go wrong." And people will take you up on that offer. Constantly, relentlessly, forever. Something breaks. Must be you. You apologize for things, remember? A project fails. Probably your fault. You're the one who always takes responsibility, right? Someone's upset. You should apologize. That's what you do, isn't it? You've created a gravitational pull where all blame in your vicinity gets pulled toward you. You're a black hole of accountability, sucking in responsibility for things you didn't do, couldn't control, and shouldn't be blamed for. But because you've established the pattern of apologizing, everyone's default assumption is that you're the problem. Because if you weren't the problem, why would you always be apologizing? The logic is backwards, but it's how humans think. Causation and correlation get confused. You apologize frequently. Problems exist. Therefore, you must be causing the problems. Watch what happens when something goes wrong in a group. Everyone's eyes will turn to you, not necessarily because they know you did it, but because you're the safe target, the reliable target, the target who won't fight back because they're too busy apologizing. You've made yourself the path of least resistance for blame, and blame, like water, always flows down the easiest path. Meanwhile, others have learned the opposite lesson. They've learned that if they never apologize, they can't be blamed. If they never admit fault, people will assume they're not at fault. So when problems arise, they stay silent. They let the room fill with uncomfortable tension. They wait for someone to break the silence. And who breaks it? You, with an apology. Even if you had nothing to do with it. You're trying to be helpful. You're trying to move things forward. You're trying to resolve the tension. But what you're actually doing is volunteering to be executed for crimes you didn't commit. And here's the cruelest twist. The more you take blame, the more you're expected to take it. Your pattern of apologizing creates an expectation that you'll always apologize. So when you don't, people get angry. Why aren't you apologizing? You're the one who usually apologizes. What's different now? Are you saying this isn't your fault? Yes, that's exactly what you're saying. But good luck convincing them, because you've spent so long being the designated blame taker that any attempt to stop is seen as shirking responsibility. You've built a prison cell with your own apologies, and now everyone expects you to stay in it. The people around you have become dependent on your willingness to be blamed. It makes their lives easier. It gives them someone to point at when things go wrong. It absolves them of having to look at their own contributions to problems. You're providing a service, professional scapegoat. And they'll fight to keep you in that role because losing you means they might have to take responsibility themselves. And they've forgotten how to do that because you've been doing it for them. Machiavelli once said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." Your past apologies have created promises about who you are and what role you play. Breaking those promises, refusing to be the scapegoat anymore, is the necessity of your present. People won't like it. They'll resist. They'll try to push you back into your role. They'll accuse you of changing, of not caring, of being selfish. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their need for a scapegoat is not your burden. You're done being the magnet for everyone's blame. You're done accepting responsibility for things that aren't yours. You're done apologizing just to fill the silence when something goes wrong. Let the silence sit. Let others squirm in it. Let them experience what it's like when there's no convenient target to blame. Let them discover that maybe, just maybe, they're the ones who need to apologize. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I deflect blame. Number 5. The forgiveness trap. Now I need you to face something dark. Something most people refuse to see because it shatters their belief in human goodness. When you apologize and someone says, "I forgive you," they're setting a trap, and you just walked right into it. Real forgiveness is rare. Real forgiveness requires effort, grace, and genuine letting go. What most people do when they accept your apology is something entirely different. They're filing it away. They're storing it. They're saving it for later. Your apology just became ammunition, and they're going to use it against you the moment it becomes convenient. I forgive you doesn't mean the slate is clean. It means the slate has been copied, filed, and stored in a vault labeled "Things I can bring up when I need to win." You think you're resolving conflict, but you're actually creating future weapons for them to use against you. Weeks pass, months pass, maybe years. You think the issue is dead and buried, but it's not dead. It's hibernating, waiting for the perfect moment to resurrect and attack you. Then one day, you're in a disagreement, a new, completely unrelated disagreement. And suddenly, remember when you apologized for that thing? I'm starting to see a pattern here. Wait, what? That was resolved. You apologized. They forgave you. It's over, right? Wrong. It was never over. It was just waiting. Your apology didn't close the issue. It documented it. It made it official. It gave them a time-stamped, verified record of your failure that they can reference whenever they need, to put you in your place. This is the forgiveness trap. You think apologizing brings peace, but it brings an armed truce. Peace with a weapon pointed at your head. Peace that lasts exactly as long as they choose not to pull the trigger, and they will pull that trigger. When they need to win an argument, when they need to make themselves feel superior, when they need to justify their behavior by pointing to your past mistakes. Out come your old apologies, like zombies rising from graves, dead issues that you thought were buried forever, suddenly shambling back to life to devour you. You apologized for doing that before, so clearly you haven't changed. I forgave you once, but here we are again. You promised you wouldn't do this. Remember? When you apologized, your attempts to be accountable become proof that you're perpetually failing. Your acknowledgements of past mistakes become evidence that you're incapable of growth. Your apologies become chains that bind you to your worst moments forever. Meanwhile, the person who never apologizes faces none of this. They have no ammunition stored against them. They have no documented failures. They have no verified records of wrongdoing. When conflict comes, they face it with a clean slate. You face it dragging the weight of every apology you ever made. Here's the part that will truly disturb you. Some people actively seek your apologies, not because they want closure, but because they want weapons. They push you to apologize specifically so they have something to use later. They collect your apologies like trading cards. The more they have, the more power they hold over you. Your submission becomes their arsenal. And the sickest part, they'll smile while they do it. They'll act gracious when they forgive you. They'll play the role of the bigger person who is so kind to accept your apology. But behind that smile, they're calculating how and when to use it against you. This is human nature at its most calculating. Not everyone does this consciously, but the pattern exists because it works. Collecting apologies from someone gives you power over them, and humans crave power. Machiavelli once said, "Men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot." Your apologies are lighter injuries to yourself, light enough that you survive them, light enough that you keep making them, but they accumulate, they add up, they build a case against you that will eventually crush you. Either stop apologizing entirely, or understand that every apology is ammunition being handed to someone who may one day use it to destroy you. The choice is yours. But make no mistake about what you're choosing. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I refuse the trap. Number 6. The death of your inner fire. There's something happening inside you that you might not even notice. Something that's been dying slowly with every apology you make. Your inner fire, your core strength, your fundamental belief that you deserve to exist without permission. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you're not just affecting external perceptions. You're rewriting your internal programming. You're teaching your brain a devastating lesson. I am not enough. Your brain is listening to everything you say, especially what you say about yourself. And when you constantly apologize, your brain hears, "I'm wrong, I'm faulty, I'm the problem, I'm not worthy." Hear that message enough times, and it becomes your identity. It becomes the foundation of how you see yourself. It becomes the truth you live inside of. Watch what happens to you over time. You start second-guessing every word before you speak it. Should I say this? Maybe I shouldn't. I'll probably just have to apologize for it anyway. You start questioning every decision before you make it. Should I do this? Maybe I shouldn't. I'll probably mess it up and need to apologize. You start doubting every choice, every movement, every breath. because your constant apologizing has convinced your brain that you're someone who is constantly wrong. Your inner fire, that spark of certainty, that core of confidence, that flame of self-belief starts to flicker, then dim, then die. And once that fire is gone, what's left? A hollow shell. Someone who moves through life asking permission. Someone who apologizes for breathing. Someone who has forgotten they ever had the right to stand tall. You become a ghost in your own life. Present, but not really there. Existing, but not really living. Speaking, but not really being heard. Because you've apologized yourself into nothingness. You've submitted yourself into irrelevance. You've shrunk yourself so small that you've almost disappeared. The reality is, confidence isn't something you can fake. It's not about puffing out your chest or speaking loudly. Real confidence comes from an internal knowing that you deserve to be here, that your thoughts matter, that your presence has value, and every apology chips away at that knowing. Every "I'm sorry" is a vote against yourself. Every submission is you telling your soul, "We don't matter." Cast enough of those votes and your soul starts to believe it. Your inner fire starts to accept that maybe you really don't deserve to burn bright. Maybe you really should stay small. Maybe you really are meant to be walked over. This is how people break themselves. Not through one massive trauma, but through 1,000 tiny submissions, through years of apologizing for existing, through decades of making themselves smaller to make others comfortable. And the cruelest part? Once your inner fire dies, reigniting it is almost impossible, because you've spent so long suffocating it that you've forgotten what it felt like to burn. You look at people who stand tall, who speak with certainty, who command respect, and you think, that's just not who I am. I'm not like that. But you are like that, or you were, before you apologized it away, before you submitted it into silence, before you shrank it into nothingness. Machiavelli once said, "Where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great." Your willingness to apologize has been great, and it has made your life difficult, painful, small. But your willingness can change. It must change, because continuing on this path leads to a death that happens while you're still breathing. Starting now, you need to protect your inner fire like your life depends on it, because it does. That fire is what makes you you. That fire is what gives you the strength to stand, to speak, to exist with purpose. Stop pouring water on it through your apologies. Stop suffocating it through your submission. Stop killing it through your constant backing down. Feed it instead. Feed it with moments where you stand firm. Feed it with words spoken without apology. Feed it with decisions made without permission. Feed it with existence that doesn't ask for forgiveness. Let it grow. Let it burn. Let it remind you what it feels like to be alive, not just apologizing for being alive. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I reignite my fire. Number 7. The power of strategic silence. Everything I've told you leads to this final truth. The most powerful response is often no response at all. You've been taught that silence is weakness, that not apologizing means you're stubborn or cruel, that saying nothing means you don't care. All lies. Designed to keep you apologizing. Designed to keep you small. Real power lives in strategic silence, in knowing when to speak and when to let the void do the work for you. When something goes wrong, your first instinct is to fill the awkward space with an apology, to smooth things over, to make everyone comfortable. But that discomfort, that awkwardness, that tension, that's not yours to fix. Let it sit. Let others squirm in it. Let them experience what it feels like when there's no easy target apologizing to make it all go away. Silence is a mirror. When you stay silent instead of apologizing, people are forced to look at themselves, to examine their own role, to sit with their own discomfort. And most people cannot handle that. They'll try to make you fill the silence. They'll pressure you to apologize. They'll create more tension to force your submission. Hold your ground. Let the silence expand. Let it become unbearable for them, not for you. Eventually, someone else will speak. Someone else will take responsibility. Someone else will apologize. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer the designated blame taker. Someone else just volunteered for that role. Or even better, the silence forces everyone to move forward without needing an apology at all, without needing a scapegoat, without needing someone to submit. The issue gets addressed through action instead of through your degradation. Strategic silence is power because it refuses to play the game. It doesn't give people what they've been conditioned to expect from you. It breaks the pattern. It forces a reset. When you would normally apologize, say nothing. When you would normally explain yourself, say nothing. When you would normally defend your position, say nothing. Just hold space. Just exist without apologizing for existing. This will make people uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. They're used to your apologies. They're used to you filling the void. They're used to you making things easy for them. Your silence disrupts everything they expect. Good. Let them be disrupted. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them discover that you're not going to play your assigned role anymore. Not with words, not with silence, not at all. But here's the critical distinction. Strategic silence is not passive. It's not avoiding. It's not running away. It's active. It's deliberate. It's you choosing not to surrender your power through unnecessary words. When acknowledgement is truly needed, you can give it. Brief, clear, forward-focused. Here's what happened. Here's what's next. No apology, no groveling, no submission, just facts and movement. But most situations don't even need that. Most situations just need you to stop apologizing and let reality unfold without your constant interference. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The fool apologizes constantly, realizes too late it destroyed them, and finally stops. The wise person understands from the beginning that strategic silence holds more power than desperate apologies. Be wise. Stop filling every awkward moment with submission. Stop smoothing over every rough edge with apologies. Stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. Stand in your silence. Stand in your power. Stand in the certainty that you don't owe anyone an apology for existing, for being human, for making normal mistakes, for taking up space. Your silence is not emptiness. It's fullness. It's strength. It's you finally understanding that some voids are not yours to fill. Everything has led to this moment. The moment where you choose who you're going to be from now on. You've seen the brutal cost of constant apologizing, how it kills your presence, how it creates hunger in others for your submission, how it builds a permanent record against you, how it makes you a magnet for blame, how it traps you in fake forgiveness, how it extinguishes your inner fire, and how strategic silence can save you from all of it. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to keep living the way you have been? Apologizing your way through life? Shrinking every day? Giving away your power word by word until there's nothing left of you? Or are you going to stand up right now and decide that you're done? Done submitting. Done apologizing for existing. Done letting others feed on your power. Machiavelli understood that the world is a battlefield, not always a physical one, but a battlefield of power, respect, and positioning nonetheless. And on a battlefield, those who constantly surrender don't survive. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to be heartless. You don't have to hurt anyone. But you do have to stop hurting yourself through constant, unnecessary apologies. From this moment forward, before you say, "I'm sorry," I want you to pause, just for a second, and ask yourself, is this apology necessary? Or is this just me surrendering power out of habit? Most of the time, you'll realize the apology isn't necessary. What's necessary is your strength, your boundaries, your refusal to be the designated apologizer anymore. When acknowledgement is truly needed, give it strategically, brief, clear, strong, then move forward. No dwelling, no groveling, no death of your inner fire. And when people push you to apologize, when they try to make you feel guilty for standing your ground, remember everything you learned today. Remember that their discomfort with your strength is not your problem. Remember that you're not responsible for making everyone comfortable with dominating you. Your life is about to change, not because the world changed, but because you changed, because you stopped giving away your power, because you stopped apologizing yourself into nothingness. If this video woke something up inside you, hit that like button right now. If you want more truth that actually sets you free instead of imprisoning you in false niceness, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. And if you know someone who desperately needs to hear this message, share this video with them. You might save them from years of unnecessary suffering. Your apologies have been destroying you. When used blindly, they're weapons against yourself. When eliminated strategically, your power returns. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I never apologize again. Remember this. In a world full of people trying to make you smaller, refusing to shrink is an act of revolution. Standing tall when everyone expects you to bow is power. Speaking without apology when everyone expects submission is freedom. Stop apologizing for existing. Start commanding the life you deserve. Stop making yourself small. Start taking up the space that's yours. The brutal cost of apologies ends today. Your power begins now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.